Hello, my name is Rayford Harris Sr., and I'm a former Teamster leader, union steward with the Allied Waste Republic Company. About 2 years ago, I sought help with Local 71 to go out and bring someone in that would be mediators for our company, the way that our company was treating us. I was able to run into Mr. Randy Conrad. We met at the Bojangles University area about 2 years ago. He sat down and talked with me at length about what he could do to help us to get the respect that we needed. Well, we certainly did that. We were able, as a company and a unit, for the first time ever in the state of South Carolina, with the leadership of Mr. Randy Conrad, go out and establish a union which was unprecedented in all its way. It was unprecedented, and it was unbelievable that we were able to establish this in the state of South Carolina, and it was done with his help and his leadership. But we got the union in, but we were not able to keep it. In January of this year, they voted the union out, and that's because we did not get the help that we needed. Mr. Wrenn was the secretary, and he did good at first. He came forward and let the company know what he was going to tolerate and what he was not going to tolerate. But as the campaign went on, there was no fight. There was no vigor. There was no vim. There were complaints coming from the Allied Waste members, the union. We were not able to get the help that we needed because Mr. Wrenn would not answer his telephone half of the time, or he was out of town, and there was a time, I have to say, that he was sick. It was unfortunate because I think Mr. Wrenn is a very nice person and a very nice person to be around. But in terms of leadership, he did not possess the leadership skill that we needed to fight this campaign and to keep it. We should not have, in any sort of way, lost the campaign that we had. He did not show servitude. He did not show fight. He did not show intestinal fortitude. And by that, we lost the campaign because the company came in and they decided to, during our negotiations, get a campaign of their own, and we lost it. And Mr. Wrenn told me out of his own mouth that if we would decertify the campaign, he was not going to fight. And I was a little taken back by his words. And I said to myself, if he does not fight for us, who is going to fight for us? And that brought a lot of other things to mind. That when Mr. Wrenn, I went to him about going out and campaigning, doing something kind of strategic to win a campaign that we knew that we had in our hands. But he said he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to fight. He didn't want to show a display of force to tick the company off and make us lose the campaign altogether. But I thought that strategy would have been good, and also Mr. Conrad thought the strategy would have been good. It would have been perfect for us to go out and show a sign of force and togetherness, cohesiveness, but it was not done. Also, every time we would try to call Mr. Wrenn on the telephone, he would not return our calls. There were a lot of complaints coming from our drivers, especially when they were getting terminated. They terminated our drivers left and right. And the excuse that Mr. Wrenn gave was that they should not have done this, they should not have done that. It was just an excuse. And he said that if they've done wrong, then they should be terminated. But he did not bother to investigate. He did not bother to pull the drivers in that had the problems with being terminated. He didn't do any of that. And because of that, we lost 6 or 7 drivers through a flub. And the company knew that if we lost those drivers, that would hurt the campaign, because they knew exactly who was involved in the campaign and who were the union yes people that would say yes to the union. And they got rid of everyone that was a union participant. And this caused a great domino effect with all of our drivers. They began to complain and complain and complain to me. And I did everything that I could to keep the drivers happy, to keep them excited, to let them know that we were doing things, we were meeting. But inside, I knew that Mr. Wrenn wasn't doing enough to keep this campaign together. And unfortunately, of this year, we lost that campaign by 1.5 votes. And the reason we lost that campaign, because Mr. Wrenn would not fight. He would not put up a fight that would have been unprecedented. We had it, and we shouldn't have never lost it. Also, the men that were complaining, their complaints were legitimate because the company went on to harass them and to threaten them. So the company ended up getting a petition going around to the drivers. And they said to the drivers that the union wasn't going to do anything for them that they couldn't do, and that they wanted to be given another chance to make things right and to have solidarity just among the company and the drivers. Well, this is what happened. We did put up a fight. We put up a strong fight, even with the petition going on to get it out. And Mr. Wrenn said that if they did the search, that they would not fight back. And I asked him, I said, listen, Ernest, I said, you're not going to fight back. I said, we've done all of this, and nothing's going to come out of it, but we're going to let it go. We continued to try to put up a fight and try to let the company know that we were not going to back down. And after the vote came down, I asked if we were going to do a sudden death campaign where we had to go in and to vote. And it was a no again. He did not want to do a sudden death. And unfortunately, because of that, we lost the campaign. And it was unnecessary for us to lose the campaign by such a small margin because of the fact that we were big enough and we were strong enough. And it was not the lackadaisicalness of the drivers. It was the lack of Mr. Ernie Wrenn to show intestinal fortitude, to show fight, to show vim, to show vigor, to go forward and say, I'm going to help you get through with this. Mr. Conrad tried to give Mr. Wrenn space and said, you have to talk to Ernest about these things. He said, I can't put my hands on this. But Conrad was always there. Every time I pick up the phone to call him, if he couldn't call me right then, he would make sure that he would call me later on, more so than what Mr. Wrenn did. And the drivers continued to ask questions. What are we doing? What's happening? But by right, I couldn't say anything because we weren't doing anything. And they knew that. And it was a sad ordeal. It was like taking one nail and then putting it into the coffin and shutting it tight and sticking the coffin in the ground and putting the dirt on it and have daisies popping up on it. That's how it was. In the meetings, there was not a strong fight. The meetings were good. In the negotiation meetings, it was not a strong fight. At first it was, but it kept going further and further downhill. In negotiations, Mr. Wrenn said that Jamie Ament was not such a bad fellow. He could go fishing with him. I began to wonder in my mind, why would he say that he's willing to go fishing with a man that did not like the union, that hated me, that hated those that were participating in the union, and he wanted to fire them? Why would you give the enemy an upper hand to put a hammer in back of your medulla oblongata and bury you? This, to me, was unconscionable. And it made me think, what's wrong here? What's wrong with this picture? And I said to myself, the leadership here is not the leadership that we need. I want to thank Mr. Randy Conrad and all the other Teamster that were behind us in this fight. It was a grueling grudge match, and we stood the test of time and set an unprecedented mounting that gave South Carolina some courage that we can have a union and nothing can stop that.